Hi, welcome back to my channel and knitting podcast. If you're new here, my name is Oline and I'm a knitter from Norway. And on this podcast I talk a bit about what I knit in the last month, what I'm currently knitting on, knitting plans, maybe some yarn, just all things knitting related really. And sometimes a bit of my regular life as well. This podcast is going to be about the month of July, and as always I have my book with me to try and keep track of what I've actually knit. And this month that's definitely going to come in handy because I have gifted away almost everything I've made. I've really been in like a gifting kind of mood all of this year. I feel like I've made a lot of gifts and given those away. But that makes it even more handy to have this book so I can remember everything and talk about it. But before we get into that, I thought I'd just show what I'm wearing. And today I'm wearing my April cardigan. This is the very first pattern, adult pattern by Petiteknit that I ever knit. And it definitely shows that this was kind of the first ever pattern that I followed really. Before, when making adult clothes, I would just kind of knit them from my own head because I knew what would fit me. But this I really wanted an April cardigan, so I tried to follow the pattern. And the arms are a tiny bit short. I would ideally want it to be like by this hair tie here. And if you see on like this button band, I picked up the stitches wrong. I picked up way too few stitches, so I don't know if you can see, but it really curves up here and it doesn't really button up very nicely. So I almost never button this like up, but this is, even though it has like a lot of flaws and maybe if I made it again it would look better, this is still one of my most worn cardigans ever that I made. I really like the color of it, I really like the fit, it's just easy to throw on, and most of the time when I knit cardigans anyway I don't really close them up, so I've just learned to live with the button band being a bit off. I really do want to make another one just to kind of maybe make it in a size that fits a bit better because the shoulders are a bit small and it's just a bit small all over, and I just want to see like if I've gotten any better, and I think I have, and like that some changes that would be made would make this look a lot better. But I also really love having this cardigan and I do use it a lot, so I don't kind of want to make another one to replace this because I still want to use this quite a lot. But that's just the quick and easy about this. As you can see, the shoulder is a bit small, so it like fits a bit weirdly. I made this in a size small. I would probably make it in a size medium if I were to make it again. And this is with drops baby merino and drops kid silk, both in the color light beige. And as I said, this is one of my most used knits. I have used it a lot since I made it. I made it in April 2020, so this has gotten a lot of use since then. But that was all about what I'm currently wearing. And then I think we can get into what's currently on my needles. And even though I said I've really been in a gifting mood all of 2023, both of the things currently on my needles are for myself. First off, we have this Camisole No9, and it looks super small currently when it's on this needle, so I'm really excited to finish up all the edges on this so I can try it on to see how it fits, because this month I've been really good at actually swatching before casting on projects, and I swatched for this project as well and found out that my gauge was a bit off in 3mm, so I did another gauge swatch and found out that my gauge across was correct using 2.5mm, but I didn't really check lengthwise, so I'm a bit afraid that the length is a bit off on this. So I'm really excited to just do all the edges so I can try on and like see how it fits. But just look at this color. I'm so happy that I chose to go with like a really vibrant, I think this color is called vibrant green as well. I'm really happy that I went with a really vibrant color for this. I do anticipate this being like a classic in my wardrobe, so I will probably end up making more, but I just think having a vibrant version of this and then maybe one in black would be really nice. I'm making this in a size small, and as you can see I have gotten to like, I'm done a couple of rounds here in the round, so now I just want to do the edges and try it on really before I do anything else, because how it fits when I try it on will like determine if I keep going or if I maybe have to unravel and start again or go back and do it a bit different. But I'm really excited about this. I think this just it looks like such a nice basic to have, and it's been really fun to just knit away on. And even though it is on 2.5mm needles, I think it has flown by pretty quickly. I did all of this in just a couple of days, and then I tried to bring this project with me to Oslo because me and my son traveled to Oslo to be with one of my friends for a couple of days and then be with my family for a couple of days as well. And I thought, oh, I can just bring this and like have it in the diaper bag and get a few stitches in here and there when there's quiet time. And let me tell you, there was absolutely no quiet time. I maybe knit 5 stitches on this the whole trip, and we were there for almost a week. So definitely overestimated my ability to knit while traveling. But now that we're back home, I really hope to just be able to knit on it a bit here and there, because it is just stockinette. So I hope this will be done by maybe next week, because I really want to be able to wear it before summer is well and truly over, even though we really haven't had any summer weather since like early June. But maybe finishing this will manifest some summer weather. So that's my plan heading forward. And then also I have a project in this little basket. This project is double-stranded and also striped, so moving around with this project is quite hard, so I just stuffed it in a basket so not everything would get tangled up. Let's see. And this is the direction loop sweater. I started on this the night before we went to Oslo, and I actually got a bit done while we were there, but most of this I've done in like the day since we got back home. I've done like everything from like here and down since we got back home. So definitely knit a bit faster when not traveling, but just look at this shoulder detail. I love how the shoulders and the stripes go in one direction and then they go in this direction, and the sweater is called direction loop sweater. And after knitting this, I have been kind of in love with Otherloops designs before, but after knitting this, definitely even more in love. It's just so beautiful. I really love the details. I tried it on last night and I loved the fit. And I'm also really happy that this summer I've kind of ventured out from all of my beiges into more vibrant colors, because I really like vibrant colors, and I don't knit that much vibrant colors for kids and small babies, but I think in my closet I can do with a bit more vibrant colors. Also, blue is my absolute favorite color, so I'm very happy that I chose blue to be the main color. When I was knitting up the shoulders, just starting, I was a bit afraid that blue would be a bit overpowering, and I almost wanted to rip back and replace it with grey as the main color. And I have kind of kept that nagging feeling in my brain all throughout working on this. But then I tried it on last night and all of my worries faded away, because I loved how it looked on. And even though you can kind of see like the shape of it and everything while working on it. There is nothing compares to actually trying it on and like seeing how it fits and how that affects the color and everything. But I'm really happy with the color, and I'm really glad I tried it on and like calmed down all of my worries. I made a swatch actually before casting on this sweater as well, because I am knitting it with double-stranded drops baby merino in the color electric blue and light gray, and I was a bit afraid that that will grow a bit much in the wash, because it's superwash yarn, and especially with double-stranded superwash yarn I feel like that grows a lot for me. But I washed it and it didn't grow like beyond gauge, so I hit gauge and then I cast it on, and I'm really happy with it so far. Still a bit worried that it might grow a bit more than the swatch did, because this is like quite a heavy boy now, double-stranded, and a big sweater is definitely quite heavy. But crossing my fingers that it doesn't grow that much, because I am really excited about having another striped sweater in my closet. The only other striped sweater I have is the Marseille sweater, and this winter it's going to be 2 years since I made that, so I'm really excited to be knitting with stripes again. But that's me babbling enough about this. Oh wait, I just have one more thing, because I actually bought some needles in Oslo for this, because I had only brought a 60 centimeter needle, 4mm needle to Oslo to work on this, and when I was doing all of these increases on the shoulder to make these sleeves, as you can see it's quite huge around this area with the sleeves, and a 60 centimeter just couldn't handle it, so the needle broke, and I was quite devastated actually, because that was like the one night I actually had time to knit, and then my needle broke. But the very next day we went into a yarn store, and I actually got to buy some Chicago needles, and I really love this like red wire. And I must say I'm used to like knitting with bamboo needles, but knitting on this project and knitting with metallic needles has really been super fun. So I think I'm sold on Chicago needles. It's been fantastic knitting with them. So I think I might have to get more Chicago needles, because I think now that I've tried it out, I think I prefer maybe working with metallic needles. And I think maybe one of the best things about this needle is how pointy the end is. That has made it really easy, especially since I'm knitting with like double-stranded yarn. I find a lot of time if I'm knitting with like a stump needle that I only get like one of the strands, and then I have to frog back all the time. But with this that's not been a problem. And also when like I'm putting the arms separating for the sleeves with this this contraption to hold all of the stitches, it's way easier to like fit your needle into this when it's a pointy end. So I'm very, very happy with my purchase of those, and a bit afraid that it's going to be expensive for me now that I've found a new needle I love. But now that we're done with what I'm currently working on, I think we can move into like my month of knitting, and then I have to just grab my book. As I said, this month has been absolutely filled with gift knitting, so most of the things I don't have, and then I'll just try to show a picture here. Some of the items I haven't really gotten a good picture of even, because I always forget to take pictures of my knits, and then all of a sudden they're gifted away. So we'll just try to make the best out of it, but I think I can start with what I actually have here, and then we can move into what I've gifted away later. First off is this Testknit. This is the Sophia finkyse that I test knitted for Trudeknits. This is just a really nice, like, lace detailed bonnet. I tested it in the premature size because I've been like on a mission to knit up doll clothes, because my son has really like fallen in love with playing with dolls. So I've been like knitting up clothes so that he can change her and everything, because we didn't really have any clothes for the doll that we have. So I decided to test knit the premature size, and it was a really fun knit. I especially like the back of this bonnet. I think it's shapen really nicely, and it definitely was a fun project and a very quick knit. I knit this up in a bit over a day, and that was along with family life and everything, so it was a very fun knit. I knit this in Drops Flora in the pink color, and this was the first knit that I made for the doll. And when I saw like how happy my son was to have like a bonnet to dress and undress her with, and how much he used it, I quickly decided that I was going to make more baby clothes. But I don't really have any patterns with premature sizes in them apart from this one. So I decided to just hack other patterns that I did have, and that led me to the baby bear bonnet by Knitting for Olive. This, I have the pattern for this, but the pattern doesn't go any lower than I think either 0 months or 1 month, and I wanted it to be like premature sized. The gauge for this bonnet is originally 23 stitches per 10 centimeters, so I thought if I knit it with a gauge of like 28 stitches, that will make it small enough. So I, instead of knitting this on 3.5mm with like a merino and a kid silk or a DK weight, I knit this up only using Drops Baby Merino in the color light grey. And this also turned, and then I knitted in the smallest size, which I can't remember if that's 0 months or 1 month. I think maybe 1 month. But when knitting this in the smallest size in like a different gauge, it actually turned out kind of perfect. It fits. I do wish that I had done like maybe 2 more rows in the front here before it's starting to increase to make the ears, because it is a bit short in the forehead here, so it goes quite high on the head. But I'm quite happy with this being like the first hack of this pattern, and if I were to make it again in like a different color for her to have more hats, the doll, I would just add in like a couple of rows here in the front. Other than that, it fits very well. It fits in the neck, everything just fits. It's long enough around here and everything. So if you want to make doll clothes, I would recommend just hacking this into like a smaller gauge. And then I also wanted the doll to have a couple of pants, so I made her these little shorts. For this, I wanted to take inspiration from Petiteknit's pattern that looks very much like this. I can't remember the name, but I'll show it here. And they are very familiar. If you can see, they look quite similar. But when I was going to cast on and just hack that pattern, I figured out that that actually wouldn't work out. The shorts would still turn out too big. So I decided to just kind of try it out on my own. I casted on stitches and just knit a couple of rounds and then tried it on the doll, and that fit. And then from there on, it was a lot of just knitting 1 row, trying it on, knitting 1 row, trying it on. But it really wasn't too difficult. The most difficult part was like trying to figure out when and where to do the decreases and how many stitches to just cast off to make these holes for the legs. I had to unravel and try again I think 3 or 4 times to get that right, but in the end it turned out perfectly. It fits like a glove, and now the only thing I have left is to knit a t-shirt, but I think that will be the hardest part because the doll that we have has a really weird construction. She isn't like shaped like a normal baby or like a normal doll. She is like very short and quite big, so making her t-shirt is going to be quite hard because it's like a long upper body, very short, like where the yoke would be, that's super short. So I'm just kind of waiting to do that really. But this is the doll clothes that we have so far, and I think it's a really cute collection so far. So that's what I spent the first or the middle part of my month really doing. And then I also have the garment that I made myself this month. As you know, if you've seen me before, I have a goal of knitting myself 1 garment a month for the year of 2023, and so far I am on track. And this month this was what I made. I usually make my podcasts wearing what I made this month, but I thought this would be a bit too little to wear during a whole podcast. But this is the basic bra by Nakedknits, and I knit mine in Drops Baby Merino in the color Desert Rose. And I have a whole video about the process of making this actually, because I tried to make it in 24 hours and I just barely missed that goal because this band here that goes here is knit on 2mm needles, and it's 8 centimeters and then folded over, and just doing that part took me like 8 or 12 hours I think. So I was not off to a very good start, but I did manage to do both the cups and one of the straps I think before the 24 hours was up. But and I'm very happy with this. I love the color, I love the fit. I'll show a picture, and if you want to, you can see like the whole process of making this in a video. I'll link that in the description. But when I tried it on and wore it a bit more, I do think that like the straps are a bit too long. I think maybe 1 centimeter or 2. So I haven't used it that much, but also I don't really want to like, the straps are sewn down, so I don't really want to like figure out where I sewn them down and unravel all of that and have to do it again. So I'm just kind of waiting to see if I find the motivation to fix that, because it still is very usable. It's just that the straps are a bit too long, so it's not as nice as I would hope. So I think the smart thing to do would be to fix it so it turned into a garment I love, because other than that I absolutely love this. I think the cups and everything are really nice, and I really love the construction of this. And I would really like, if you want to make a knitted bra, that might be a bit niche, but if you want to, I would really recommend Nakedknits patterns. They are really nice. The only thing with this that was not so nice is like this band here on 2.5mm. But when you're done with it, you realize like it is good as well, because that means that it fits really snugly like underneath your bust. But yeah, the one thing about this is to fix the straps, so hopefully I will like have the motivation and time and energy to go back and fix that during this month, because I do really think that this would be like just a nice top to wear as well. So crossing my fingers that I will get this fixed. This actually just took, let me find it in my book, this actually just took me 52 grams to make, so if you're really lucky with your skein of yarn, you might be able to make this using just one skein, or like a skein and just a bit. So that's also a really nice thing about this project, that it takes up very little yarn. But that's all for like my garment for the month of July. And then the last thing I made that has stayed in the house is this hipster beanie. This I have not weaved in the ends for because I finished this right before we were leaving for Oslo. But this is just a simple double ribbed hat. I made this for my son because my son had his birthday. He turned 2 the 23rd of July. And we didn't really have a gift for him because we were planning to get him something, but I don't really like ordering online. I think everyone's out to scam me, so I don't really order anything online, and I knew what we were wanting to get him I could buy like in person in Oslo, so I wanted to do that instead. So like I just knit him up this beanie as like a symbolic gift for his birthday. And actually part of the reason why this was what turned out to be his birthday gift is because I was going to watch the Barbie movie in the cinema with my sister, and I thought to myself, I can't sit still and just watch something for 2 hours. I have to bring something to knit. But the project that was currently on my needles was something with like decreases and increases, and like I have to be able to look at it, and I didn't think that was likely in a cinema with quite dim lighting to be able to do that. So I cast this on really quickly and managed to do like the row where you establish this Italian bind off before the cinema started, because I also thought that would be a bit difficult to do in the dark, but I managed to do those rows where you just establish anything before the cinema started. And then I just knit away on this while I watched the cinema, and to write two stockinette stitches, 2 purl stitches around and around and around and around was the perfect thing to knit during a cinema. And I got quite far as well. I think I got like this much done during the movie, and then I just and that was the 21st, and my son's birthday was the 23rd, so then I just knit away at it bits by bits by bits until his birthday, and it got finished quite late on his birthday actually, but he did get it, just not with ends weaved in, and now he also has gotten like his true birthday gift. The fun part also is that my mother, as part of her birthday gift to him, also had knit like hipster beanie, so we have like the exact same thing to give him. She also had made him a sweater and some other things, so but he got 2 of this hat for his birthday, but he also has one previously, but I know the hat he has previously that is similar to this. He absolutely loves it. Sometimes he goes and picks it up from his basket of hats and just puts it on and wants to wear it around the house. So I don't think you can really get too many of these, and also this fits me as well. I have like something in my hair right now, so I won't try it on right now, but this fits adults as well, even though this is the child size. So now that he has multiple, I can borrow some as well. But that's all of the knits that I still have, and now it's time for all of the knits that I've gifted away. Okay, so let's see. The first, I'd say the first week of July, I spent knitting on the final few pieces for a baby gift I was giving away, a barselgave, a gift to the mother and the baby after the baby's born. I also made a video of that whole process. If you want to see like more in depth and everything in the baby shower gift, I'll show the baby shower gift here. So if you want to see that, link in the description. But I just finished the last few pieces to that gift in the very start of July. So first up was the Friday sweater. I started on that the 1st of July while I was filming my podcast actually, but that podcast I deleted. But I made the Friday sweater. I made that with Drops Flora in white and Drops Flora in pink. And the Friday sweater is one of my absolute favorites to make for babies. I really like the broken rib and I really like the stripes, and I just like the look it gives, and especially this Friday sweater really gave me the vibes of like cotton candy, and I really liked the stripes with white and pink, so it was really fun to work on. I made this in size 6 to 9, and that's also like small enough that the project really like knits itself, especially when there's stripe and broken rib. I feel like that just makes the progress happen so much more, and you see very clearly how much you've done in like a sitting or a session. So I really like working on that. I have made myself a Friday sweater too. I modified the Friday tee to be long sleeves, but I really prefer making it for babies because it goes so quickly. So that was the first project I cast on, but not the first one I cast off, because I've also had a lot of like crazy cast on energy in July and just been casting on here and there just to have something to knit on in different situations. So while I was working on the Friday sweater, I also cast on for the Sunday Socks Junior. I'll show a picture. This is a pattern by Petiteknit, but I like to modify it when I'm giving it away for a baby gift to make the foot a bit smaller than the smallest size. I make the shaft and everything according to the pattern of the smallest size, but then I do a few less rounds on the foot, so the foot gets shorter and then it fits even smaller babies, and because the shaft is so long it stays on really well on babies. And I have gifted it away. This was the 3rd time, and it's a favorite for me to knit because it's very fun and it goes by very quickly, and I really like the look of the 2x2 on the sock as well. And I know the people who have received it have also really liked it and used it a lot, and that makes it even more fun for me to knit it because I know it will get used. So I knit those up as well, and they are knit in Drops Lima in the color Almond, and I knitted those in like an evening and then the start of the next day. I really enjoyed working on those as always, and I think I'm probably going to make similar ones sometime soon. And then the last part of the baby shower gift, the Bregnebukser by Knitting for Olive. Those were the very last thing I had to make, and these I actually cast on towards the middle of the month because I had a motivational slump during the start of July. I was casting on quite a few different things, trying to like find some motivation to knit, but there was like lots of stuff happening in the family life and we were just really busy. My fiance was working a lot, so I was alone caring for our son, really long days. It was light basically throughout the day and night, so sleep was a bit more shit, so we were just kind of dealing with all of that. So I was struggling to like find time to knit, and when I had time, find the motivation and the energy to do it. I just wanted to sit down and do nothing when I had the opportunity. So there was a bit of a knitting slump in the middle of the month, but then I cast on the Bregnebukser, and those kind of helped me get back into my knitting mojo, because I was very worried before casting this on that they were going to take quite some time and they were going to like delay me being able to gift away this baby knit. But once I cast on and actually got started working on it, I realized it was much easier to follow like the pattern than I thought. So I was able to both work through it pretty quickly, but also knit on it while my son was awake, which is huge because that gives me loads more knitting time. So this actually flew by, even though it's a pant in the size 6 months. I knitted in just over a day. I cast it on in one of my son's nap, and then the next day I cast it off in the same kind of nap window. So it's like a 24-hour knit, so I'm very pleased with that, and that like kind of kickstarted my knitting mojo back up. This is also knit in Drops Flora in the color pink, and it's kind of like a set I made. It's maybe my favorite part of this baby gift. The set with like the Friday sweater in white and pink, and then the Bregnebukser in pink, and they are also in like the same size. They are, the Friday sweater is 6 to 9 and the Bregnebukser is 6 months, so they go together. I think I have a picture of them as a pair as well, and I think they fit really well together. So I'm really excited to have given that away, and I really hope that the receiver gets a lot of enjoyment out of those pieces and gets to use them quite a lot. And then kind of immediately after I was finished with that kind of huge gift that had taken up a month of me just knitting on that gift, I got told that one of my aunts is pregnant, and not only with one baby but with 2, and she really wanted me to knit up 2 Selmas suits for her babies, so I started knitting on those. Let's see, I started knitting on the Selmas sleepsuit. I actually started a bit before I was finished with the Bregnebukser, so it was like immediately from one gift into the next. So, but I got to try new yarn for those sleepsuits because she bought the yarn for me and sent it to me. So I got to try Double Sunday from Sandnes Garn. So I knit both of those suits in Double Sunday, one in, I can't remember the color, but I'll just write them here. These suits I don't really have any good pictures of, because when I was working on them I was taking pictures, but it was usually pretty late at night and they are a bit blurry. And then the day I was gifting them away, the place was just, the light is very weird and the suits look kind of grey, but I'll show some of the pictures so you kind of get the idea. But one suit is in like a dark brown color. I'll write the name up here, and then the other suit is in a much lighter color, and I'll write that down here. And I got 6 skeins of each color, and that was enough for the Selmas sleepsuit for both of them. But then I also had some scrap yarn, and I thought it would be really cute if I also made some baby bear bonnets, because those are my favorite, like bonnet or hat for a baby, and they are also really cute, and I thought it would like go with the amount of yarn I had. So I made 2 of those as well, but the pink suit actually took up a bit more yarn than the brown one, or the light version took up more than the brown dark brown one. So I ended up having to use some of the dark brown yarn for the I-cord on the light kind of beige brown bonnet, but the colors really match very well, so it's almost like you don't see it because it matches so well. And then I got to gift that gift away because my aunt lives in Oslo and I was there, so I was able to like hand deliver it, and that was very nice. And I also talked a bit to her about knitting, and she gave me basically free reins to knit whatever I feel like is suitable for her twins. So I have gone a bit overboard, and I have written like some plans on this note. I wrote this with crayons because I'm quite like, I don't want my son to scribble in this book, so I didn't want to write the plans in this book because my son was awake and he likes to draw, so when he sees me write he wants to draw, so I wrote it on this note instead with some crayons, and then he has like helped me with some scribbles as well, so we worked on this together. So here I have just like planned some suits and pants and jackets and sweaters I want to gift away, maybe a blanket and some socks and mittens and hats and everything. So I have quite a few plans really, but it's family and I really love baby knits, so I'm really excited to get started. I'm just going to finish the 2 eagle knits I have, and then I'm going to go crazy with baby knits. The one thing I'm a bit excited to see is how I kind of react to having to make the same thing twice in quite a short time span, because I do tend to go and grab for the same patterns, but usually with like loads of time in between. But now I'm knitting for twins, so each of them are getting the same thing, just in like different colors. So I'm excited how that will like affect my motivation. I've also gotten to borrow this book from my grandma. It's like a book full of really cute knitting patterns for kids. It's for boys and girls in between the ages 0 to 12 months. So I have already found some favorites in this book that I am really excited to try out. This is a brand new designer for me as well. So I'm really excited to get started on knitting some baby knits. And I don't know if you can see, but my yarn stash has filled up quite a bit since my last podcast. I have been talking about like stash busting and reducing my stash, but each time I get to like my kind of first goal of getting under 10 kilos of yarn, I end up buying more yarn, and that happened this time too. I ended up buying like 3 kilos in a stash someone was having, because I could not let that opportunity get away from me. They were selling skeins for like 1/4 of the price of what it goes for if you're buying brand new. So I got a lot of yarn. I got some pinks, I got some bright blues, I got some greens. The yarn you see me working on in both of my eagle knits are from that, like the stash I bought yarn from. I got loads of browns and greys, and I just have to see. Yeah, that's what I got, but I got like loads of some of the colors. You see this green here, I think I have almost 1 kilo of. Also dark brown, I got some beige. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to use the dark browns and maybe some grey and the beige and stuff to knit up baby gifts. I think beiges and greys and browns look really cute on babies, so I'm probably going to use mainly those colors. But that is really all for this video. Hopefully next time I won't have bought any new yarn, because now I really want to start stash busting. My desk can't take anymore. It's like all of the desk is completely filled up. The yarn is like climbing up on the wall. I need to reduce my stash. Not all of my yarn fits on the desk even, so that is the goal. At least by the end of the year, all of my yarn will fit on the desk, and hopefully I can also see some of the desk by then. I would also like to learn to sew. next year, so I have to reduce my stash enough to get my sewing machine. But those are kind of my plans for the future. I think I'm going to be baby knitting for most of the rest of the year, with like some sweaters for me and my son in between. He also needs a couple of pants for winter. But that's all for this video before I get back to knitting. Thanks for watching, and if you liked this video and want to see more, please leave a like and subscribe, and I would love to hear from you in the comments. Bye!